Hey there, I'm Frank Mitchell. On this channel, it's all about helping you understand your car and keeping it running the way it should. Whether it's routine maintenance or solving those tricky problems, I've got you covered. If you find this useful, give the video a like, hit that subscribe button, and be sure to watch till the end. You might learn something that saves you time and money. All right, let's get started.
Nobody likes having to pay taxes, but we are obliged to do so, and not doing so will end up being much more expensive. When we buy a new car, we have to register it in the municipality where we live, which implies that we pay, unless we comply with any of the exemption cases that we will see later: the IVTM, vignette, road tax, or municipal tax, whatever you want to call it. It is also important that we keep this payment in mind when selling our car as used, since, if it is in our name on January 1st, we will have to assume the payment of the tax for that year, even if it ceases to be in our name on January 2nd. What is the IVTM? ITVM stands for Impuesto sobre Vehículos de Tracción Mecánica, commonly known as municipal tax, because the municipalities are the ones who apply it, vignette, stamp, or small number. It is also known as circulation tax, since when it was introduced it was precisely to give vehicles the right to park and circulate on the streets of the municipalities. It is a compulsory tax for all mechanical traction vehicles, although there are some exceptions that can be general, such as those currently applied to electric vehicles, or specific, such as those applied by some municipalities to historic vehicles. Although it is a tax that we pay to the municipality in which the owner of the vehicle is domiciled, the payment of the vignette allows to circulate on public roads throughout the national territory. Which cars do not pay road tax? As we said in the previous paragraph, there are some conditions that make certain vehicles exempt from the payment of the IVTM. The mandatory exemptions are contemplated in the Royal Legislative Decree February 2004 of March 5th, which approves the revised text of the regulatory law of local treasuries, official vehicles of the state, autonomous communities, and local entities assigned to national defense or public safety, vehicles of diplomatic representations, consular offices, diplomatic agents, and accredited consular officials who are subjects of the respective countries, externally identified and on condition of reciprocity in extension and degree. Vehicles of international organizations with headquarters or office in Spain and of their officials or members with diplomatic status. Vehicles to which the provisions of international treaties or conventions are applicable. Ambulances and other vehicles directly destined for medical assistance or the transfer of the wounded or sick. Vehicles with DGT label 0. Vehicles for persons with reduced mobility referred to in Section A of Annex 2 of the General Vehicle Regulations, and vehicles registered in the name of disabled persons for their exclusive use. For more information, see the exemption for persons with disabilities. Buses, minibuses, and other urban public transport service vehicles whose capacity exceeds 9 seats, including the driver. Tractors, trailers, semi-trailers, and machinery with the agricultural inspection card. In addition to these mandatory exemptions, municipalities have the power to determine other exemptions, for example, historic or classic vehicles, which may have a total or partial exemption, depending on the municipality in question. How and where is the IVTM paid? The IVTM must be paid in the municipality where the owner of the vehicle resides, and it is usually paid by direct debit and automatically charged to the account of the owner of the vehicle. For this, it is necessary to register the vehicle in the corresponding town hall. As the tax is applied according to the characteristics of the vehicle, it will be necessary to identify it to the local administration. If the vehicle was already registered, for example, when we bought a used car, it is the DGT itself who is responsible for informing the town hall where the owner of the vehicle resides when the vehicle is transferred to our name. In the case of vehicles registered for the first time because they are newly registered, the tax will be paid by means of a self-assessment system. This will be formulated in regulatory form that facilitates the general registry with previous character to the inscription of the vehicle in the registry of the provincial headquarters of traffic. If the receipt has not been paid by direct debit, payment can be made at any of the banks indicated in the payment letter or receipt. The payment must be made at the bank within the period of time established each year. When is the IVTM paid? The municipal tax or vignette must be paid by the person who appears as the owner on January 1st of each year. It is an annual tax. The collection of the receipts is carried out by each city council, so that there can be some differences from one municipality to another, but the normal thing is that this tax arrives to us between January and May, and a term of between 30 and 60 days is given. To make effective the payment of the same one, it will have to come specified in the letter that the city council in question sends us. How much does the circulation tax cost? The amount of the ITDM is established in Spain based on the fiscal power, although it is being considered to modify this and establish a new scale based on the pollutant emissions and the type of vehicle in question, and it is each municipality that establishes the amounts to be applied. The fiscal power, CBF, does not coincide with the power of the vehicle. It is a number obtained by means of a formula which in Spain is as follows: CVF equals displacement in cm3/no cylinders 0.6x0 and dot angt 0.8x no of cylinders. For example, in a gasoline car with a 1.6-liter four-cylinder engine, its fiscal power would be 1600/4. 0.6 times 0.08 times 4 is equal to 11.65 HPF. The higher the fiscal power, the higher the value of the IVTM, and Article 95 of the Ley Reguladora de las Haciendas Locales, regulatory law of the local treasuries, establishes the sections and the minimum rates to be applied to each one of them according to this table. CDF tourism minimum amount less than 8 CDF 12.62 euros from 8 to 11.99 FVC 34.08 euros from 12 to 15.99 FVC 71.94 euros from 16 to 19.99 FVC 89.61 euros more than 20 FVC 112 euros motorcycles and mopeds minimum amount mopeds 4.42 euros. Motorcycles up to 125 cubic centimeters 4.42 euros. Motorcycles from 125 cubic centimeters to 250 cubic centimeters 7.57 euros. Motorcycles from 250 cubic centimeters to 500 cubic centimeters 15.15 euros. Motorcycles from 500 cubic centimeters to 1,000 cubic centimeters 30.29 euros. Motorcycles over 1,000 cubic centimeters 60.58 euros. In Spain there are differences of more than 400% between municipalities in the amounts of IVTM, which results in some municipalities with very few inhabitants have many vehicles registered belonging to fleets and companies that use them as tax havens to reduce the fixed costs of their fleets. What happens if I do not pay the road tax? As it is a municipal tax, not paying the vignette means having a debt between the owner of the vehicle and the municipality. That is to say, they cannot fine us or immobilize the vehicle, but they can seize our accounts until the debt we have accumulated and the corresponding interests are paid. What we must take into account is that, in the case of wanting to sell our car or buy a used one, for the change of owner it is mandatory that the vehicle is up to date with the payment of taxes, so that, if we have not paid the IVTM, we will not be able to sell the car legally. How can I know if I have paid the road tax? Earlier we mentioned that the IVTM is usually paid by direct debit, so that we can check whether or not we are up to date with the payment of the same by simply consulting our bank statement. In the case of not having it domiciled, we can check whether or not we have made the payment in the offices of the City Council, either in person or electronically through the various virtual headquarters of each municipality. In conclusion, understanding how, where, and when to pay your road tax is essential for every vehicle owner. By familiarizing yourself with the specific requirements in your region, you can ensure timely payments and avoid any penalties. Remember to check your local government website for the most accurate information on payment methods and deadlines. Staying informed will not only keep you compliant but also contribute to the maintenance of our roadways. Thank you for watching, and safe travels.